Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at the setups for Ichi. Um, we'll start off by looking at some live charts just to see what they look at. There are three types of setups really for Ichi. There are low, medium, and high probability setups. Um, and then there are also what are called cloud breakouts or Kumo breakouts. So before we get started, let's go ahead and let's just review real quick what we're going to be looking at. Let me zoom in a bit real quick. Okay, so what we have, just so everyone remembers, the blue line here is called the Tenkin, or I call it Timmy. It's a faster moving line. The purple line is called the Kinjin, or Mr. Krabs. It's a slower moving line. And the last one we're going to be looking at, the white line, I'm calling it Casper. It's called the Chinko span. It's the one that, now that we're getting into how the system works a little bit, it's the one that actually tells you when to get into a trade, or it can help you on deciding when to get into trade. It's one of the two parts after a crossover or a breakout occurs that you're going to check to see whether you'd get into a trade or not. So the way this works is you will get either a crossover or a breakout of a cloud. We're going to go over crossovers first. And just because you get a crossover, the template that I provided y'all will give you an alert that says crossover. Let me force an alert real quick. Okay, so if you could see here, it says buy signal, T crosses K, so Timmy crosses Mr. Krabs, US CAD, 12:14. That was about 15 minutes ago. Let's take a look at it real quick. Oh, sorry, I got the hiccups. Okay, so basically, let's pretend this was a bit ago. You would have gotten the alert. So you just jump over to the US CAD chart, pretty simple. And here's our crossover right here. Let me zoom in on it for you. Okay, so here's our crossover. Now, since we're looking at a crossover where the blue crossed over, blue is on top now, the Timmy line is on top of Mr. Krabs, that is a bullish or an upward market. So it's moving up. So we'd be looking to either, if in FX, you'd be taking a buy, or in binary options, you'd be taking a call. Now, just because, like I mentioned, just because we have a crossover, that does not mean that you have a trade. All it means is the first step of the trade was there. Anytime you have a crossover, this, I wouldn't consider this a cloud breakout because that cloud was too narrow. Okay, so anytime you have a crossover, the next thing you want to check is we want to look for Casper. Where is Casper? And when this one happened, the way we would check it back in time, Casper's always 26 behind. If we look at the current candle and we go back 26, it is always 26 candles behind the current price. So let's look where the crossover happened, which was right here. Let me bring this up. 26 periods ago, 26 candles ago, it was 23, 24, 20, 26 candles ago, it was right, and there we go. It was above price, and when I say above price, it was above price here. So that right there, and it's above the cloud also. So that right there, yes, that would step one of the two you need to qualify the cross, says yes, we did have a viable trade to get into. Now, if the Casper line would have been in this cloud, or it would have been touching price here, that's a no-go. The Casper line needs to be above price and out of the cloud for a probable setup. Now, this is a low probability setup. Why is it a low probability setup? Because we're looking to take a call, but is under the cloud. A low probability setup for a call, it's under the cloud. A medium probability setup, when it crosses, it would be in the cloud, and a high probability setup would occur when the cross occurs above the cloud. Okay, so now let's go back to where we were. We have a crossover. 26 periods ago, Casper, our little friendly helper here, said that yes, we were clear almost to get into a trade. But let's look at the last thing that we need, and that is from the crossover, we want to take a look at the cloud 26 periods ahead. Now, the cloud is always 26 periods ahead. The cloud was not green. We still had red. So if we're looking to take a call or a buy, we need three things. First, we need our crossover, and then you're going to look, is it low, medium, or high probability? In this case, we have a low probability. Next thing we want to look at is the Casper line. Is it above price and out of the cloud? Has it cleared the cloud? So step 2, yes, it has. Now we move on to step 3. The cloud itself and the forward projection, is it green because we're looking at taking a call? No, it is not. So we wouldn't have a very high probability trade here. Actually, we wouldn't have a fully qualified trade by the rules. If you want to traditionally trade this system, that is not a qualified trade. It's just an alert. Yay, alert, you don't have a trade though. So you'd pass on this one. You wouldn't want to take it, even though we can clearly see price did just jump right up nicely. Now, if we were going to enter on this one, I'm going to go over here, and when did we get the crossover here that started turning this green? And let's go back 26 candles so we could see where we would enter on this one. Okay, so entry here would be this candle right here, this little bad boy. Now you're saying, but hey, it went up, it went up, it went up. It didn't. This is how we're going to rule out a lot of false positive results. Great, it went up, but maybe this time it did, and next time it might not. So let me draw a line here now. You would wait for the close, and you always want to wait to the close. You're going to wait on the close of this candle, because that corresponds to when we did get our crossover and the cloud started moving green. So now if we look, we have our crossover. So you had 5, 10, 15, you had 15, 20 minutes to wait for this thing to set up, and then we could get into it. Now, if you're trading bins, I'd recommend doing either a 15-minute or a 30-minute call on it. I'm going to be teaching this as a spot system. So is what we would want to look at there now. Actually, for the spot system, I'm not going to get into it right now. I'm just going to go ahead and cover the rules for the system so you understand what the trades are. We'll get into everything else, like when to exit out of a trade or all that other fun stuff. That'll be later on. But if we look, that qualified us for a low probability upwards move, a call or a buy on the system. So again, let's review real quick. First, we had our crossover. We checked the Casper line. It was above price, but then we moved over to the cloud, which this one forms 26 periods ahead. Casper forms 26 behind. We need a combination of all three to line up. We need the crossover. If the crossover is good, we check Casper. If Casper is good, we check the cloud. If any of the three don't line up, wait on it to line up. Now, common sense says you want to look at price action too to see if there is room for price to go up. But again, we're going to get into that later. Right now, today, I'm just going to go ahead and cover the setups for you so you can understand what the setups are and how to get in and out of them. Well, not out of them, just how to get into them. We really just want to identify possible setups today. Sorry, I needed a drink. I'm going to try not to cough your ear off. Okay, so that's a low probability setup, and that would have been our entry right there. That was when it was a fully qualified setup. Let's bump out. Let's take a look at another chart, see if we can find anything. Let's see, we got weak bullish crossover. That's not a good one for us. Okay, well, let's take a look. You got an alert, and what do we got? We have a crossover here. And just to look at it, price, this was a bullish. That means they think price is going to move up. Now, if I jumped over to this chart, so what's the first thing I'm going to look at? Yes, we got a crossover, but Mr. Krabs is pointing down. We want, ideally, both of these to be pointing up because we're looking at a bullish crossover. The purple line does move slower, so it might adjust up later. But so let's go ahead and let's use our steps again. Low probability. Why is it low probability? Because we're looking at taking, our alert said bullish, price is moving upwards, but it is below the cloud. If it would be in the cloud, it'd be medium, and if that would have been above the cloud, it would have been a high probability, but we got a low probability setup. What's our next step we're going to take a look at? Let's go look at Casper. Where is Casper? Dead middle in the price. So we have a no-go there. This is not a viable trade. And third step, let's check the cloud. 26 periods ahead. It is still red. Orange, whatever. I'm using tomato, I think. So we don't have a viable trade here. So, yes, we got a signal, but do we have a trade? No, we don't. Pass on it, move on, wait for your next one. Trust me, with Itchy, you're going to get enough. make sure when you are trading Ichi, you're on a trending market. On a ranging market, it's just going to make a mess. It is not designed for a ranging market. It is designed for a trending market only. Okay, so review one more time. Crossover. Check Casper. Casper's dead in the middle of price. Don't want to touch it. And if we go forward, look at the cloud. Cloud isn't green either, so we have nothing. We want this to cross over and give us a green cloud before we start looking at getting in that trade. If you're using the system, you might see me up here. Look at the top. There's a little tiny arrow here. See how the cloud kind of butts in over here? If it's ever in the way, you can drag your system by grabbing the little arrow. And if I could get it, you can move the offset back. If your chart is not offset, that's your... Where is it? I'm sorry. Here it is right up here. It says chart shift. See? There, we can do our chart shift. Okay, so let's zoom out again. Let's see if we can find a medium probability setup. Okay, so right here, this is Euro USD. Let's take a look what we had. We had a crossover here. Now, this isn't a trending market, but I'm just giving you examples of what we got. I wouldn't trade this one because we're flat as a 14-year-old, someone said earlier today. But here we go, crossover. So this would be, if it was a trending market, we have a medium probability crossover. What's the first thing you want to look at? And again, it's blue crossed over. Blue's on the bottom. So that means this was a bearish signal. This price should move south. So here's the crossover. Where's Casper 26 periods ago on this one? So let's take the crossover and go back 26, 23, 24, 25, 26. Casper was right dead mid in the middle of the price, so his little helpful ghosty butt says, no, you're not getting in that trade. Crossover, let's look 26 ahead. And 25, 26. We're looking at a bearish crossover, which means south, but our future cloud is green. So if this was a trending market, right there, ruled out again. We're just passing on that one. No reason to get into this trade. Avoid it, stay out. Now again, you can wait for things to fall in line. You have your crossover, and as long as blue is on the bottom, purple's on the top, and things start moving downward, if we get a crossover here, and Casper comes out of the price and out of the cloud, then we're good to go for a trade. You can jump in at that point. So it's not all things have to line up immediately. It's crossover, wait on Casper, wait on cloud. If they happen to be aligned all at once when you get that alert, jump in right away by all means. But if they don't, then like I said, stay out. It's not a valid trade. All you got was a signal. You did not get a trade. Okay, so that was a medium. Let's see if we can find a high probability trade. And let's see, crossover was here. I don't like that one. I don't like that one. I don't like that one. So far, all I'm finding is low probability. And this is a nope. And nope. Okay, so since I can't find any low probability, let's jump over to some of my charts and we'll look at a high probability. This was low probability. Low probability. I think this first one was a high probability. Okay, so this first one was high probability. Let's see if I can get into it, and I'll try and zoom in on a little bit. Okay, so this first one was a high probability trade. Let me zoom in on the chart a little bit, and I'll explain why. This was a trade I took yesterday. I'm going to zoom in a bit here so you can see it. And this will be our example of a high probability. Okay, so alert went off right here. When the alert went off, this was a high probability trade because blue crossed over purple, blue is on top, so that means we do have a bullish signal. Price is going to be moving upwards. Now, the first thing we would have wanted to do is about 26 periods back is it's yellow on this one because I decided to make it white so that Casper could be white too since it's a ghost. But Casper was not... Casper was above price but below the cloud, so we would want Casper to break up through the cloud to wait up for a higher probability setup. Now the other thing we were waiting on is again, the cloud. So step 3, check step 1, crossover. Step 2, check Casper. Casper wasn't there. If we went about 26 periods forward on this one, we did have a crossover here. So you see this went green. So we have 2 out of the 3 things we need for a trade. So now all we're waiting for, and you can sit here and stare at the chart, we're waiting for Casper to break through the cloud. Once Casper did break through the cloud, as you can see, my entry was on this candle. I did not wait for the close of a candle, which you're really supposed to, but on a shorter time frame, I would not. I guess let me explain that real quick. If you're on a 4-hour candle and you're an hour in and it breaks through here, it's got 3 hours to do whatever it wants. But on a 5-minute candle, I already saw it as I was watching it. I got an upward, and we actually got another crossover here. So if we look at the crossover here, again, going back 26 periods, Casper still hadn't broke through. But we had a definite green cloud, so I was just sitting here. I was just basically watching this one. And you can see I entered right as price broke out of here. I ended the trade up there. But that is what a high probability setup looks like. So why is it high probability? One more time. The crossover occurred above the cloud. So right there we have high probability setup. Not high probability trade. High probability setup. The next step, check Casper. Casper did not qualify the trade, but just go on, move on to step 3, check the cloud. The cloud says we're good. So we got 2 out of 3. Wait on step 3. Once you got step 3, take your trade. That is the 3 types of setups we have. Let me zoom out here a bit. Okay, so that's the 3 types of setups we have. We have high, medium, and low probability setups for crossovers. Let's take a look at the charts again real quick, and we'll see if we can find some cloud breakouts. And we'll talk a little bit about the cloud. Okay, so let's look at, this is USD JPY. The other type of trade you get is called a Kumo breakout, a cloud breakout. I don't take a lot of these because, I mean, they come kind of in confluence with the crossovers. But I'll explain them a little bit just so we can explain. The cloud. What is the purpose of the cloud? Well, the cloud gives you support and resistance. The thinner the cloud, and think of it as an airplane. When you fly through clouds, you get a little bit of a turbulence. The thicker the cloud, the more turbulence there is. Airplanes fly under or over clouds to avoid turbulence. For us, it's the same thing. That's why you wait for Casper to come above or below the cloud, because we're getting out of that turbulence through that rough spot where the trade might not go smoothly. As you get better with Ichi, you'll notice a lot of these trades do go very smoothly, because if you follow the traditional rules, you're taking some, well, just very smooth trades. I mean, that's the only way to put it. Okay, so basically what we got here is we had a crossover, and it was blue on top, Timmy on top, Mr. Krabs on bottom. And we're looking at here. So it was, the cloud's not too thick, but we'll say that it's going to give, I don't know, it's going to give a little bit of resistance and not a lot. But if you look so we can see, here was a trade, here was price movement outside the cloud. Not a lot of resistance, it moved up nicely. We get into the cloud, we got white, black, and there. So it is struggling a little bit to move through the cloud. For a breakout, we want to make sure that the candle that you're trading comes out and closes in the direction you want. So we would want a white candle to come out of this, close in the direction you want. Once it has closed through there, then you would look over at Casper. Casper right now is a no-go. It's not above price and it's not through the cloud. So again, I prefer the crossover trades. There's a lot more of them. They're a lot easier to do. Not easier, just common sense. The breakouts I don't use too much. I just use them in conjunction with the TK crossovers when Timmy and Mr. Krabs cross over. Pretty simple to use. Again, just make sure you are following the rules. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to wait for the trade to set up. They get in early and they get burnt. If you want to use the system, you want to use it traditionally as it was set up. Wait till all these things line up. Get your crossover. Check Casper, check your cloud when they all line up. See, now for this upwards one, price is coming up. So Casper's not there. What's the next thing we're going to check? The cloud. The cloud still hasn't crossed over yet either. So we do not have a viable trade here. we would want to wait until they come up. I cannot get the hang of this little thingy here. Okay, so there's my chart shift off a little bit. As you can see, we're about to have a crossover. Price is about to come up. Traditionally, we would want Casper up here. You could, as thin as this resistance is, I personally, and I don't want you to break rules or anything, but personally, I would ignore this because, I mean, look at that. That is tiny. So what I would be waiting on is price to come clear, the crossover to happen here, and Casper is above price. So most likely we're going to get a continuation here of price moving upwards. So as soon as I get a candle that breaks out cling, shows me a white candle close, and we get a crossover here, I'd be ready to jump in on a trade. Let's see if we can find anything else to look at. UCAD's going up, up, up. This was a trade that I think that we had marked. We got in right here, and as you can see, it's moving up nicely. If it's too small, let me zoom in on it. This is the first one we covered. Remember, we had the crossover, low probability crossover. So what did we wait on? We checked Casper. Casper was already good. It wasn't in the cloud, it was above the cloud, and it was above price. So here would have been our entry. 26, where was, well, right there. And as you can see, price is moving nicely forward. We have the crossover here, and this is the one we were looking at the beginning of the video. So as you can see, the system works very well. No, it's not 100%. You do need to use common sense. If we zoom out a bit on this one did have plenty of room to move upward. Most likely, you see we're getting resistance here because here's our previous high. If you have any questions about Ichi and how to use it, and the rules, or what qualifies a trade, what doesn't qualify a trade, what the significance of the cloud is. Remember, the thicker the cloud, the more resistance, the more turbulence you're going to hit when price comes through it. The thinner the cloud, in some cases, like on the chart we were looking at, you could almost actually ignore it. If we see price coming up into this, I mean, that's barely zero resistance at all there, zero resistance at all here. Little bit here, little bit up here. Use everything like the system was originally designed. Everything is used to work together, like a finely tuned clock. I don't know. But everything, all parts of the system are designed to work together, as you can see. So again, if you have any questions, hit me up on the forums, hit me up on Skype. That is basically it for Ichi. The next thing we'll do is, if you have questions, demo it, try it out, post some trades. I'll see if I can help you out with them. But definitely take a look at it and have a little bit of fun. Thanks for watching the video, and y'all have a great day.